Okay, look at the center of the cross. No, don't get distracted by the celebrity's glam. Just keep staring at the cross. Go on, just a little longer. And suddenly, something weird starts happening. Those faces go from red carpet gorgeous to downright bizarre, right? What kind of creepy spell is at work here? Well, we promise you, we didn't do any Photoshop magic. Look, if we stop this crazy roulette and you focus on the photos, you'll see that Miley Cyrus still looks great. This optical illusion is known as the flash face distortion effect. Basically, these photos are arranged in a way that totally messes with our heads, and our brains love to compare things. So when the images switch really fast, and you see someone with a tiny nose right after someone with a regular nose, your brain gets confused. Suddenly, a normal nose can look as huge as Pinocchio's. The same goes for lips, eyes, you name it. Since our brains are always comparing each face to the one before, they end up turning these beautiful celebrities into exaggerated, creepy cartoon versions of themselves. So, tell me, what do you see here? A horse or a seal? It partly depends on where your eyes land first. If you look at the bottom of the picture, your brain probably thinks it's a horse. But if your gaze goes to the upper right corner first, suddenly it looks like a seal's tail. But it's not just about where we look. Then something even stranger is happening here. When our brains spot an ambiguous figure with unclear information, we basically see what we want to see. In one experiment, scientists showed this exact image to a group of people and told them that if they spotted a farm animal, they'd win a candy treat. Yum! But if they saw a sea creature, they'd get canned beans, which is kind of weird, right? The results showed that 80% of the people saw a horse. So they decided to switch it up. This time, whoever saw a sea animal would get a treat. When the motivation changed, can you guess what happened? More participants ended up seeing a seal in the second round. So yeah, it seems like psychology plays a huge role in how we interpret ambiguous images. We also have these undecipherable figures. I mean, no matter how hard you try, you just won't be able to fully understand the image. Take the impossible Trident, for example. On one side, it looks like three cylindrical shapes, but on the other side, it seems like they merge into two rectangular parts. This happens because the vision center of our brains does a lot of its work subconsciously and automatically, interpreting the figure as a three-dimensional object. But when we see that structure in 3D, it doesn't make any rational sense. It's similar to the Penrose triangle. This triangle is physically impossible to construct in the real world, so we just can't figure it out. The next optical illusion is the negative afterimage effect. So look at the three dots on her nose. If you didn't guess it already, that's Jennifer Lopez, looking like an Avatar character. But don't worry, this eerie look is about to change right before your eyes. Keep your gaze fixed on those three dots right in the center of the picture. Don't look away, and don't blink. Alright, on the count of 3, we'll switch to a blank white screen. But you have to keep your eyes wide open. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, bam! Can you see what I see? Yup, it's J-Lo looking fabulous in her red outfit. Crazy, right? But there's a solid reason behind this magic. Our eyes have millions of tiny light-sensitive cells called rods and cones. Rods help us see in low light and pick up things in our peripheral view, which can also be pronounced peripheral view, while cones are all about color, bright lights, and fine details. When light hits these cells, they get excited and send signals to our brains, where everything gets processed into what we actually see. But here's the catch. Cone cells can get tired. If they stare at the same color for too long, well, they need a break. That's when other cone cells step in to help out. Different cone cells are better at handling red, green, and blue colors. So when certain cone cells get fatigued, the theory of opponent processing kicks in, allowing other cones to take over. And that's how the color in J-Lo's photo magically appeared. Hey, look who it is! Einstein! Now, squint your eyes, or if you prefer, take a few steps back. Wait, is Einstein suddenly turning into Marilyn Monroe? This is a hybrid image, which is kind of like a mashup of two pictures. It combines the blurry parts of one image with the sharp details of another. In this case, Einstein's image is all about thin lines and sharp contours, like wrinkles or strands of hair, while Marilyn Monroe's is more about the big picture, with those blurred shapes. When you step back or squint your eyes, those tiny details fade away, and suddenly Monroe's face jumps out at you. The same thing happens here. At first, this woman looks kind of meh, not happy, not sad. But if you squint your eyes a little, suddenly she looks really mad. Uh-oh. Wow, what a twist! Here are Kim Kardashian and Timothée Chalamet's photos turned upside down. Did you notice anything strange about them? You probably didn't, but if you look closely, you'll see their eyes and mouths aren't flipped. This is called the inverted face illusion. It happens because our brains are wired to recognize faces right side up. We process them as a whole and pick up on details really quickly. But when a face is upside down, our brains struggle to catch those odd details, like the upside-down features. This trick is known as the cafe wall illusion, and what's crazy about that is these bricks aren't crooked at all. In fact, the horizontal lines are perfectly straight and parallel. This image tricks our brains because of how we process contrast. The sharp black and white tiles next to each other create a visual conflict, making our brains think those lines are bending. But if you switch the colors to something softer, like pink and blue, the illusion disappears. The softer contrast doesn't mess with our perception the same way, so we can see the straight lines clearly. And there's something else. Check out the layers of mortar between the bricks. Yep, those gray lines. The distortion only happens when the brightness of the mortar is somewhere between the dark and light tiles. So if the mortar is too dark or too light, the illusion fades away. Poof. Now, these strawberries are red, right? Well, wrong. In this case, the strawberries aren't red at all. They are gray. This magic happens because of something called color constancy, which is our ability to recognize the color of an object regardless of changes in lighting or surroundings. In this experiment, all the red pixels in this photo were swapped out for gray ones, and we can prove it by zooming in. It only looks like there's red in this picture because the background is blue. Our brains think that the light source has some blue in it, and then they figure out the color of things by discounting the color of the light source. When your brain takes those gray pixels and subtracts out that blue bias, you end up seeing red. Interesting, right? The same thing happens with the dress. If your brain sees the lighting as a bit yellowish, it tries to discount that golden glow, making you see the dress as blue and black. But if your mind thinks the background is darker, it discounts those bluish tones, and suddenly the dress looks white and gold. So, what's the real color of the dress? Well, in this case, it's actually black and blue. But let's wrap this up before we dive into that never-ending debate again. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.